Hi guys, and welcome to another video with me, Mike, aka Damn Profit. So, we're starting a new video chain about what I think about things, and today we are going to be starting with the Xbox One X. Hi there guys, welcome to Damn Profit Command Control Operations. So I've done loads of videos, and some are about unboxing, some are about games, some are about game levels. I've never actually done a review video, and I've been spending quite a lot of time with this chap, the Xbox One X. It was released a few weeks ago. I've held off on doing reviews. There are plenty of reviews online that you could probably go and watch. I'm not interested in those. All I am interested in is basically giving you an opinion based upon time spent with the console. So I want to take you through the very run-of-the-mill daily things that you're probably going to experience with it. I'm going to take you through improvements, and then I'm going to take you through some of the still Xboxy things that I think could really be improved. But overall, this is a new feature set for me. It's going to be called What I Think About. So, let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. You know, the Xbox One X came out. It is the most powerful console on the market, and in all honesty, no one is arguing with that. Microsoft has done an incredible job. Now, I'm not going to show you the aesthetics of the console. I'm not going to show you what it looks like. It looks like one of these up here. It's got all the same plugs and points and bits to plug cables in as the Xbox One S. So the X truly is the most powerful games console. I've got a PlayStation 4 Pro and I've got an X, and there are certain things that you can just tell: load times, network access times, disk write times, graphical improvements, even glitches like on Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. There'd be a mission on the moon where things would even still blip out a little bit on the PlayStation 4 Pro that doesn't happen now on the One X. It really does live up to that moniker. So I'm not here to question the credentials. We're not here to question the aesthetics, the things that are in it. You know, it's got a 4K UHD Blu-ray drive. It's got all the right things. Technically, it is a marvel. So the One X is the powerhouse at the moment. But what else does it do? Like, for example, I do not run my games consoles on 4K TVs. I run them on 1080p gaming monitors. So I can do 1080p 60, no problem, in very, very high definition. You know, much sharper than a TV can. So what does it offer to me? Because, you know, we can hear the rules about HDR and 4K TVs, etc. And, you know, that's great. And if you've got a 50-inch TV in your living room that's running 4K HDR, fantastic. But all that's really doing is sharpening the picture for the size of the monitor that the image is displayed on. Now, there's a lot of people out there that have smaller TVs in the bedrooms. There are lots of people out there that, like me, I don't have a TV in my office. I have monitors. So what does it do? And also, what else is on offer here? That, you know, a lot of people are talking about the performance of the games, but there are quality of life improvements that a lot of videos I've watched, and certainly a lot of reviewers that I've been engaged with, don't actually cover off at all. You know, Digital Foundry has done the frame rate comparison against the PS4 Pro and Titanfall 2. There's other channels that have done heat tests on the console to see how hotter it is versus other, and power usage against another console. Well, that's great, but if you only own an Xbox or a PlayStation and you're getting a One X, you know, the power considerations are minimal, in all honesty. You know, but it's the little things that the X improves over the original Xbox and even the One S that really are giving it the difference. So, rather than me sitting here and talking all about it, what I think we should do is get into the video, and let's get into the dashboard and let's have a little look around, and let me tell you about some of the quality of life improvements. So, let's get rid of me. I'm not the important bit here. Right, so what we're essentially seeing now is an Xbox dashboard. No different to the dashboard that you will see on a day-to-day basis when you're using your Xbox, your original Xbox One, an Xbox One S, or an Xbox One X. The one thing that we can give Microsoft on is they have absolutely committed to doing exactly what they said on the tin. It is part of the family. It is not a replacement console. There's nothing. In fact, if you turn an Xbox One X on versus an Xbox One S or an Xbox One, the only difference you'll see is the first 10 seconds there's a video of the Xbox One X chip in a black background with lights, and then it goes into the green Xbox One standard boot up screen. Slight difference is the Xbox One boot up screen is in the green seems a bit sharper. The X symbol in the middle seems a little bit, quite substantially better actually. And in the middle there's like a green glow. So it's giving you kind of particle effects feelings to say, it's the same but slightly different. So going into the dashboard, as I said, if you're a regular Xbox player, you're not going to notice any real difference. You're not going to turn around and immediately go, I am playing an X versus playing an S versus an original Xbox. I have an original Xbox in my living room and the dashboard is identical. And Microsoft's done something really clever here, is that they have not even done a 4K dashboard update. Now, when I first read that, it seemed to be very critical from the website I was reading on, and also some of the video reviewers that I was also watching as well, that they were saying that, why is there no 4K dashboard update? And it doesn't really appeal to those people that have TVs, that, they can see little few edges. So there is a bit of me that says, I want a 4K update. I want it to subsample down to 1080p. I want to see what this looks like. But there's also a bit of me that says, actually, Microsoft's been really smart here. Because the more stress that they place on this dashboard, the more that they try to make it sharper and have more data, then the problem is with more data comes the very problem that we've all been complaining about, is that the original Xbox One dashboard was slow. It could get bogged down in multitasking. If you asked it to do too many things, it would, in essence, start to stutter and have problems. Now, we all know this is the new dashboard that's been launched in the autumn update. In fact, there might be some things on this that you won't see on yours because this is an actually alpha ring build of the insider build circle for Xbox. So there might be some things you might not see on yours, but ultimately it's going to be the same in a few months anyway. So there's the quality of life improvement straight away. Number one, I can just mooch through on the top of the dashboard, and as you'll see, the load times are really quick. Sometimes you'll go into the store, and on my OG black Xbox in the living room, them games below, these take a while to load, and sometimes if you scroll quick enough, you'll actually catch it out and then watch it loading. As you can see, there's none of that here. If I go into browse games and start to load the Xbox store, we still get a similar load time, but it just feels quicker. It loads much faster than it does on a standard Xbox. So, you're not going to see anything different, as you'll see here. There's nothing that really stands out as being, oh, it's on an X. Oh, that's the best thing. The one thing that you will notice is whenever you push the Xbox button on the controller, the menu does load really, really quick, and there is no stutter to get anything. There is also, it can multitask applications very, very well. So you can have multiple things open, and the machine just really doesn't slow down. As I've said, you can look at all the different pins. It's very quick. It feels a little bit more polished. I don't know how. It just feels like it was meant to be this way. So overall, the dashboard, very well done. There's no extra features. I can take you into the settings, and as you'll see, it just loads very quick. Video output, we get into the resolution of advanced video settings, and there's all the 4K details. And just to prove, I am not playing this on a 4K TV in anywhere settings whatsoever. So this is all 1080p that I'm going to show you. So as you'll see, everything feels really sharp. It just feels like it's not thinking as much. It just feels like the menu system is now running on a platform it was meant to run on. Going to things like entertainment and scrolling through, it's really fast. Now, maybe it's just me because I've had an Xbox One since day one release, and it's, the original one started out on Windows 8.1, and there's a big nod that's got to go out to Microsoft here, that we we took, for those that joined on board with the Xbox One from day one, there was a horrendous dashboard. Horrendous. The Windows 8.1, Windows 8 dashboard that it originally came with was horrendous. And every Microsoft person knew that. If you bought an Xbox One and you put your console on, you knew that the moment it loaded up, that 8.1 or Windows 8 dashboard was awful. Finding things, doing things mid-game, it would just cough and splutter. Microsoft it needs big praise because they have stuck with something that was underpowered against the competition. Not underpowered, it was just built for a different job. Gaming was an element of the Xbox One. It wasn't the thing it was built for. Well, unlike the PlayStation 4 was built for gaming. Now, over the course of the 3 years that it's been out, 4 years, we've started to see that PlayStation is taken on some things that Xbox done with the external drive support. They've also done files and folders so that you can arrange things on the dashboard. So there's lots of things as well, and other things behind the scenes that PlayStation has taken on from Microsoft. And Microsoft, through their insider program and through the development of this dashboard, has really, really done well to get into the position that we're in with it now, where I think the dashboard is pretty slick. You can access all this really quick, and there's an element of the original Xbox 360 in the fact that it's kind of got blades. This is kind of like put the Xbox button on the 360 as it came to be in later iterations, where you'd have your pause menu and you'd be able to cycle through and do all this, and it's really quick. That's what I really like. And you can get to your pins, or you can get to the store, or my games and apps. You want to get to your settings, you can go here. You want to have a look at broadcasting it onto Mixer, absolutely fine. You just go into there and you hit go and it is out there. You want to look at your friends, you want to look at multiplayer or starting a party, it's all here. Couple of presses of a button and you're in. It is really, really quick. And that is brilliant. So, as you'll see on the screen, it says launch Destiny 2. Now, the one thing to be aware of is the PS4 Pro version and the Xbox One X version are not optimized yet. So, I'm just going to show you how it works in game, because there's one thing that I think that the X does a little bit better is, from my last experience, was the load times seem to be very good. Now, we're going in for, this is starting from disk. I haven't pre-started it. It's not resuming. This is from scratch, loading up. So we're going in, we're connecting into the account, and as you'll see, there's just okay, so I also forgot that the Destiny servers were offline. Okay, so let's go back to the home. So let's just eject that disk, because that is a completely pointless exercise on this video. There you go. It goes to show you that I am recording this live. So let's have a look at something like let's do The Division. Okay, so I was playing this the other night, and the one thing I could quite happily say is that it felt a little bit better than the PlayStation 4 Pro version. The controls on an Xbox controller just feel better. The fog effects in this game now are so much better. Load times are so much better. It just feels like a complete game. And the one thing to point out about The Division, it is not optimized. So this is not 4K optimized. This is not Xbox One X optimized. It is just showing you what I'm trying to show you with this is day-to-day livable improvements. And one of the things with The Division that used to kill me on the original Xbox was load times. It would just feel that little bit longer, and this seems to be that little bit quicker. And it just feels as though that you can get into the gaming much quicker as well. So as you'll see, we're going through the typical Division load screen. Now usually you'll be sat here for 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes on an original Xbox, and what you'll notice with the Xbox One X is it is hopefully significantly quicker, unless my internet is being utilised by my family, which it could well be. See, so we might be about a minute, but it it feels a little bit quicker. And I haven't played The Division in ages. I'm not going to lie. I put The Division onto the Xbox, got bored, switched over to the PlayStation, and I've come back to this, and it just feels better. So, loading into The Division now, and as you'll see, it just connects a little bit better. It's looking for a server. You know, naturally, all these things are looking for servers at Ubisoft HQ. And it just feels that this bit of the screen is loading faster. And when we actually get into the game, you'll notice that there are certain things within The Division that just the individual Xbox One X grunts through. The extra power just powers this into a great position for graphics, and don't get me wrong, we are going to look at the bad things. So that, you know, obviously you can see the extra grunt for load times is just that little bit quicker. Now, one of the things with The Division that really does stand out at the moment, you can tell that we're running 1080p textures. It's really weird because you look at the back of the gun. See, if you look at the gun on his shoulder, and you look at the jacket, you know, it's okay, but you look at the box and the textures are sometimes awful, and yet you can look down. Obviously, the console was meant to run, the game was meant to run on a console that didn't have this much power, so obviously it's running low powered textures. It's not meant to be running 4K textures yet, and don't forget, as I said, it has not had that update. So, but one thing that you'll feel about the game is it just feels quicker. It just feels like that there's no juddering on the load times. There is, you know, the particle effects on the snow do get much better when you get to a certain point in the game. There's you get to certain points in the game where the snow starts falling, and hold on, he's bad. Where the snow starts falling, and it just looks so good. It just looks better, and the fogging effect, you know, there's no pop-up, there's no tear in the background. So, you know, like I said, you may not feel as though that the game is going to suddenly wow you where before it may have done. Or you may feel as though that the game was a bit blocky before. You know, it just feels as though that the improvements that the X is making is just more significant. That it is just stepped its game up. So, you know, for 1080p, you know, for 4K players, we are expecting that Ubisoft is going to do a 4K uplift in The Division. They are working on an enhanced version. So, you know, we will be expecting that at some point that this is going to get better. And, you know, these type of games are only definitely going to look better. Is he dead? He's dead. There you go. Just goes to show I'm playing it in real time. So, you know, there are just genuine little things that the console does that just makes games feel better. Like, and one of the things I must point out, if you didn't notice on my console, is that if I go to my games and apps, one of the things I can say is if you look down this side, right at the very bottom, you'll see, keep going down to the bottom left hand corner of the screen, you'll notice that it says I have 3.1 terabytes free. So as with any Xbox One, it does have the ability to run external hard drives, and it does have the ability with those external hard drives to plug in a USB expansion, like a expansion adapter, and plug in multiple drives. So I have got a 3.5 inch 3 terabyte hard drive and something like a 2 terabyte, so 5 terabytes in total with 3.1 spare, and I've got about 200 games or 170 games installed on the console. So, you know, overall, there's just little things, but sometimes those improvements can be huge. So, you know, like one of the things that used always to bother me about The Division was just load times, and they've pretty much gone. You see, the worst load time that you have in this game is that when you first boot it up and just initially loading in. But past that, the game looks better. It looks much sharper. As you'll see, boom and boom. It looks much sharper. It looks so much better. it feels better. It looks like it runs better. So, you know, you just get this feeling of, you know, the console has got the grunt. So, past that, you know, one of the things that we can talk about, which is really good, are the 4K updates. So, we will, what we're going to do is we're going to go home and we will close, we will quit the Division, and let's have a look at one of my favourite games, which is Halo 5. And one of the things that you're instantly going to see with this is Halo 5 is a completely different game. This is a game that I have downloaded 4K assets. So what we are going to be seeing here is going to be 4K video, subsampled down to 1080p. And the one thing I can say about this is a huge improvement. I'm not going to go into the technicalities of it. Go to Digital Foundry, go somewhere else, have a look at what it says about 60 frames a second and the update that these guys, that 343 Studios and Microsoft have done with their Xbox One X enhancements. But as a game, it is absolutely stunning. It has got so much better. And I'm going to show you one of the best levels to see this example of improvements. And we will go to, so as you can see, everything just loads that little bit quicker. It doesn't feel as though that you're gonna have to spend 10 minutes waiting for weapon tuning comes out shortly as well. That you're not gonna have to wait until daily login. Let's have a look while I go on my daily login pack. There we go. So it just feels as though that you're not going to have to wait so much long. So we are going to resume the Swords of San Helios. So this, you will start to see where the 4K assets have come in, that rocks just look better, water looks better, explosions look better, grenades look better, everything in general just looks better. And as you see, load times. This is loading 4K assets off an external hard disk. So as you can see, everything loads that little bit better. So if we just look over here, you look the pods. Everything that you can see is a 4K asset that's been updated. And it's you'll see particle effects come in, lights glowing. Look at the fire that's just breathing out of there. Everything is just better, and there's no load. There's no load in between the game. There's, look, you know, you've got water effects down there, waterfalls spewing down. You've got right into the distance. In fact, you know, you can see that they've updated all the rocks. You know, everything that they possibly could have done to bring this game up to a specific level has been done. The particle effects on the fires is brilliant. You know, everything about this game has been dramatically improved above and beyond what was expected. Above and beyond what was expected. And you can really tell that that 343 have done the effort in this. That they are not just doing this because, you know, it's an upgrade for the sake of an upgrade. They're doing this because I genuinely think this is the vision that we expected to see. This is truly the vision that 343 wanted to give to us. This is the way that Halo was meant to be shown. So, you know, we can see that all the lighting affects the stone. I mean, this is just one of the best versions. And if we restart the mission, let's restart the mission and let's do the initial intro and let's go down to the water effects. You'll get to see it just looks stunning. And this is the power of the One X. This is where I think Microsoft has got it on nailed just right. And this is when you give a developer that's got a game that's 12 months old, that's running on a bad engine, that's been built for a console that didn't have this power, that just by giving them this little bit of time, to upgrade it. It just is beautiful. The water effects, the stone effects, the sky, you know, seeing the other planet in the sky, and you can zoom in with different things and it just doesn't miss a beat. It is possibly one of the best. Now, there are some criticisms about this. You know, it's still Halo 5 in some respects. You know, they've not changed the story or the engine that it runs on. So there are still some areas where it will subsample down to just under 4. No, I think this one runs at 4K 60 frames a second all the time. So, you know, there are some places where it might subsample down to about, instead of 2160p, I think it subsamples it just a slight bit down, but nothing major, nothing horrendous. But you can just see it just looks beautiful. It's just done well. And there's the grunt of the Xbox One X coming right through. This is what we can expect with a little bit of time with a decent dev kit. So, you know, and I'm not speaking from a fanboy perspective. I'm speaking from an objective mind. You know, the one thing I can say about the console as well, it's on now, as you can hear. I've not got the sound effects on the capture. It's just me talking, and in the background, that small little buzzing noise that you can hear is the hard drive and the fan just buzzing away. I mean, it is insignificant. If I was to turn the PS4 Pro on now, you would hear this high-powered, high-whiz buzz happening in the background. You know, once you put it into 4K assets, oh my god, the PS4 Pro goes mental. If you play a game with a 4K update on the PS4 Pro, it just lets all kind of noises off that we didn't expect. It is just the X has been designed to take absolutely everything that they needed to do to have a 4K machine running that would allow it to do it quietly and without pain, and it's doing it really well. So overall, shooting the wrong things. I'm down. You know, they've taken a really good game. They've made it. Well, they've taken a good game. They've made a good game better. They have added the 4K assets. They've done everything that, you know, we would expect Halo to be, and Halo to have, and the kind of updates that we would want for a game to show off the extra grunt it can do. Now, I've got Assassin's Creed Origins. I can show you a load of other 4K games that you would probably sit down and go, oh my god, show them off, they do it better. But, you know, you get the gist. The X has got the grunt. That's all that really matters about this. So, you know, that's all we've got to look at is there is the capability to do what Microsoft said it is ultimately out to do, which is get a 4K console in people's hands that has got the grunt it needs to be the very best. So I'll just see if I can kill this guy. Hate the Magnum's not as powerful as it used to be in the original Halos. There we go. So we've kind of looked at the graphics. We've kind of looked at the load times. You can see that just getting around is just really easy on the Xbox One X. It's not like it's struggling or thinking about it in any way, shape or form. So let's have a look at the downside. So the negatives. Number one, there are times when you are looking at games that it will somehow just stall. Now, whether that's because I'm running such a large amount of storage on an external hard drive plugged in through a USB hub, and it's got a 2.5 inch and a 3.5 inch drive all powered through the same thing, you know, I don't know. So it could just be that. But one of the things that I think that the X team have not corrected, which is such a shame, and it's something that they should have worked on, and maybe it's just all about presentation, and that is game installing. So I'm going to pull myself back onto the screen. I'm going to say to you what I've got here, and you're not going to see it all because of obviously I've got green screen and effect for the background, but there is Dishonored 2. It's on an Xbox One case. So Dishonored 2. This game is not installed anywhere in my hard drive. So let's just double check. No, Dishonored 2 is not in the list. There's all the Ds, and Dishonored 2's not in the list. Right. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to install. Here's the queue. There's nothing in the queue. It's just going to show you some of the things that were recently installed on my Xbox One X. So, here is the disc. Dishonored 2. I'm going to show you physically the one thing that I think could put people off buying the console. So the disc has gone in. Now on a PlayStation 4, you put that disc in and it will just go whiz on the main menu and it will install and it will say ready to go. So installation started. It's installing. It's still installing. It's still installing. Now it's queued. Now now the reason that it's queuing is because it needs an update. That's commonplace. Now you'll get used to stuff like this. If you've had an Xbox since day one, you'll know that things like this is the norm. But why can't it just install the game? It's now installing the game. But why is it taking so long? I mean, even with the PlayStation version, it would just go zip. Now, I think this could put some people off. I genuinely think that this could put some people off with the X. Because, as you'll see now, it's doing a 10.91 gig update. Now, I'm quite lucky. I've got really fast internet. So, as you'll see, I think I'm running 146 meg download speed. So, it will jump up and down because the family's obviously looking at the internet and my son's watching videos. But if you've got a slow connection at home, 10 gig is something that you could do overnight. Fine. Installing 40 gig, right? The PlayStation 4 version would be installed now and ready to rock and roll. And you would get the feeling that it's installed really quick. Now, I'm going to put a caveat on this. That the reason that I think that it takes so long to install is because on the PlayStation it gives you a blip, which is it installs enough of the game in that very quick period to just put something onto the machine to say read the game from the disc. So what this is doing now is it is installing the game from the disc to the hard drive. So that's why it's going to take a bit of time. But I think on the PlayStation it downloads an initial file that says read this from the disc so that I can play the game, whilst in the background it installs the game that I'm playing. So for example, in the 2 gig that we've downloaded now into this machine, I think that you would just be kind of loading FMV video. You could do an FMV video in 468 meg that you can watch. So I think that it's kind of, by the time it's doing its boot up and it's doing the right speed onto the internal hard drive, I think that this is just a matter of presentation or the way that the file structuring is done on the machine. It is a case of, I believe, that Microsoft's presentation of how the games are installed is just different than Sony's. I think Sony just lets you crack into the game very quick. We've been doing this for a couple of seconds, and minute maximum, and it's already 3.5 gigging. That's essentially the first level of the game, or it could at least be the first half an hour of the game. And in that half an hour that you play, it will then install the other another 20 gig, which is halfway through the game. And I think it's just presentation more than anything. I think Microsoft could have this done to such a point where they could do this as an update where they hide all this installing, and the network patch update doesn't have to be done straight away. I think they're just trying to be clear with all their fans. Look, you're installing a 40 gig game. You're installing a 10.91 gig update. So, for me, I think that's a bit of a negative. For me as a numbers man, I like to see things happening. I like to see things installing. I cannot believe that we're in a position where we've got a console that can do 6 teraflops of data. It's got a faster processor than the PlayStation 4 Pro. It's got more RAM than the GDDR5 RAM. It's got 12 gigs of RAM, and still we're in a position where I have to watch a little Microsoft bar get to the top before I can play a game. So that to me is a bit of an off-putter. There are also some times as well where you get updates for games. So I had this situation literally the other day, and I didn't film it, and I wish I did so that I could show it in this video, where I was installing a game. And I'm trying to think, I think the game, if I remember right, was Watch Dogs 2. And Watch Dogs 2 needed a patch, much like we're doing now. But in the same time, 6 updates became available. And there was other things that I was downloading. So I would leave this alone, for example, and I would say, okay, I'm going to go and have a look at my games. And out of these games, I'm going to say go to Black Ops 3. Right, I'm going to go and manage my game, and in my ready to install list, there would be all this Awakening, Salvation, DLC, and personalization maps, etc., etc., and Nuketown and Giant. So I would go there and install those, and for some reason this would then freeze. So Dishonored 2 would freeze. It would say queued. The other stuff wouldn't even appear below. It would lock out my games menu. It would lock out the apps menu. I could go home and look around the dashboard. So, I could quite easily go back home. I could look around this dashboard. And there's a case of it. Just the stutter. It's just enough. But on a console this powerful, we should not be seeing stutter for just installing a game. Now, you think that 27% of this game is installed now, and I still can't play it. So for me, that's a big criticism, and I think it will put a lot of people off. Other factors as well is, there have been reports as well of consoles failing. Now, I'm running a Scorpio edition, and I have not had a blip. I have not had anything go wrong. So whether the people are putting it into, the people that have had faults have been putting them into enclosed cabinets, letting it get too hot. The one thing that you do need to be aware of, that the Xbox One X needs good ventilation. Putting it in a traditional TV cabinet is not going to work, because and the same goes for a PS4 Pro. This isn't just about bias one versus the other. Both of them suffer the same problem. The heat that is generated in a box this size doing 4K gaming is huge. So they have to have plenty of breather. The same happens with PCs. If you're running a GTX 1080 or you're in a 1070 or you're doing something that requires 4K gaming, you'll see most modern PCs will have 6 fans. They'll have water cooling, oil cooling, etc., etc. And that is because 4K going through a graphics processor, and especially in a form factor the size of the Xbox One X, even with its vapor cooling that it's got, still generates huge amounts of heat. So putting this into a small cabinet is not going to work. The fan will be on permanently. It needs to be in a quite well ventilated space. Mine's in a reasonably well ventilated space, and I just went down to have a look at it, but it does require that ventilation. And same with the PS4 Pro. You can bang one of them in one of them little TV cabinets, and just the inbuilt power supply on the PS4 Pro, you could probably cook an egg on after about 10 minutes if it was in an enclosed area. Also as well, it takes a bit of a while to get used to the disk drive being underneath the actual box. Like if you're used to an Xbox One or a One S, you'll know that the disk drive is straight in the middle. With the design of the One X, it looks very much like the PlayStation 2. It does hark back to that. I mean, obviously it's a variation of the One S console, but the 4K Blu-ray drive is at the bottom underneath the lip. I know why they've done it. It's a design thing to keep the lines very clean and it not to have this big slot in the middle where it can gather dust. It's very strategically located, but it does take a while to get to. And this might just be me being finicky and really picking at something, but the USB slots feel like they're manufactured and within a tolerance of like 0.1 of a millimeter, 0.05 of a millimeter. So just something like with the original Xbox One and to some extent with the One S, you just felt as though that the USB ports they had a little bit of give in them. It felt as though that when you kind of pushed a cable in, there was some flex and some give. And with the One X, they are manufactured to stupidly high standards. Now there you go. We've been doing this, what, 5 minutes? The game is now ready to start. Let me just get out of here. You'll see the game is now ready to start. So I can start playing that game now. It is 43% of the way through on installing. I can now start to play it. Where I know the PlayStation version, it would just be click and go. There would have to be an update done for the PlayStation version, fair enough, to play it, but, you know, we're in the same boat here with the Xbox One X version. So yeah, going back to the USB point, it just feels like the USBs are so well manufactured that if you kind of wiggle it too much, or you kind of try to put something into the slot like a USB cable, it just feels like you have to really push it. And one of the other things that came out from when people were buying the original, you know, bought a Scorpio like me, or getting one right at launch, is the power cable. If you do buy a One X, the one thing that you have to really double check before you turn it on is the power cable seems to have a 2-stage insertion process. So you kind of push it in and it'll feel like it's in, and then you have to push it again and until you feel it kind of clunk in. Now, from what I understand, is that some people that have been having faults with the One X's is because this power supply, the power cable, because obviously there's no power brick now. And, you know, I'm not going to explain why there's no power brick. There's loads of more people that would do it better, but there's no power brick anymore. So there's no cable to go into a box, to then a cable from that box to go into your console. It is literally just a 2-pin cable, exactly the same as what your standard PlayStation 4 or your Xbox One S has got. And when you plug that cable in, it kind of clicks and then clicks again. Now, some people, there seems to be a rumour going around on the internet that double click method is causing problems because people aren't double clicking the cable and they aren't getting it secure, so it sits and it starts to short and cause problems with the console. On a few teardowns that we've seen as well, now, you know, whether this is genuinely the case or it is just someone trying to maybe damage the console's brand, there is the thermal paste around the processor. Some people have been doing strip downs, and the thermal paste seems to be very dry when it's supposed to be quite sticky and to an element of moist, but it's come off dry, and a lot of people potentially are predicting that it may be another red ring of death. Now, considering that Microsoft have sold 80,000 consoles in a stupid amount period, and they got fulfilled all those pre-orders and all those people that bought on the first week of it coming out, and the failure rate has been, in my personal terms of what I've seen online, I've counted about 10 or 15 videos. Now, fair enough, if you said that it was 10%, 9,000 consoles had a failure rate, you know, it would still be within some element of tolerance for Microsoft. And if it did fail because of thermal paste, Microsoft will swap it and give you a new one. You know, that's not the big trouble. You know, as long as it gets fixed, then that's the important bit. Now, the worrying thing is it something that's affected by time? Or is it something that is just going to creep out in a few years like the Xbox 360 does? You know, you have it 12 months later or 13 months later, bam, your console bricks, it dies. You have no reason why, and then you find out the thermal paste is given out. I don't personally think it is. I think that it was just a case of, you know, a few broke. And it could be anything. It could be down to anything. You know, these things go through so many different hands and so many machine hands to get manufactured that, you know, it could have come down to some guy on a Friday was just using the last bit of thermal paste in the end of the gun, and it just turns out that was the bad bit, and that could mean that one person experiences one failure and we're all on red alert. That to me is not failure rates. If we start to see consistent failure rates over a period of time, say a month, and we see that the failure rate is that 10 consoles, 20 consoles, more and more people report these failures, you know, fine. You know, like with the power cord, if Microsoft doesn't do a note or something in the box that says make sure that it's all plugged in properly, or unless we just double check it and we don't be stupid and just double check our connections, then something like that, it's just education. But to have something break because of thermal paste, if the manufacturer has changed their thermal paste supplier and not told Microsoft, and they're using a lower grade to try and save money, and then that starts to generate loads of failure rates on consoles, then that could be serious. But so to just recap on some of the negative pieces, not negative, but some of the things that I just think we could fix that. And some of it's really simple to fix. So for me, this installing piece, it should be something that it should be hidden away. I don't see why we should see a queue for something being installed. It says ready to start. What ideally we should be seeing is on the home screen. Dishonored 2 should be there. It shouldn't even say a percentage. It should just say ready to start. That's all I need to know. That's all people playing games want to know. Is I just want to play the game. My little bar on my PlayStation goes whoop, and it says go. Press the button and it loads. It might tell me I need an update and I might need to do the 10 gig download. That's fine. At least you know what's going on, but it looks as though the game's installed, even though I think personally it's not. So for me, what I would do if I was Microsoft, get rid of the percentage bar, just say ready to start. If I want to see a percentage bar, then as ever, let me go into my games and apps and let me go down to queue. And I'll be able to see, oh, look, I'm 56% of the way through. That's great. But for me as a gamer, and for most people like you guys out there, who cares about percentages? As long as you know it's going in and it's starting to work, fine. That's all it needs. I also think that from the power cord perspective, I do think that that is a user error. And I know this is going to sound really harsh, but if you think it's plugged in and it's not, and it just needs an extra push, it takes a few seconds just to work out, plug the cable in, give it another push. Just double check things. It may just be a case of that, a kid set his Xbox One up, he plugged it, Xbox One X, he plugged it in, he didn't push it all the way in, it pops. Next thing you know, the guy's on the internet complaining to everyone that Microsoft broke his console. And, we just have to just use a bit of savvy, guys. This is a console that is going to be outputting, when it's running 4K, it uses a lot of electricity. It uses a lot of power when it's doing that. Not much more than the PS4 Pro, but just double check all your connections before it goes live. And like I said, for those guys on 4K TV screens, having a dashboard that runs in 4K is quite important in my eyes as well. It's not essential for me, but I think for you guys at home and those that are running 4K TVs, it would be nice to have that little bit of polish, as long as it doesn't increase the operational size of the OS and it causes problems like losing this ability to do great multitasking and to not have that slow down. Overall, so to wrap up, I know that this is quite a long video, but I wanted to go into depth around some things for you to understand when you're buying one of these. So big improvement. Day-to-day living with activities are much quicker. Before we get into that, let's have a look at one other thing as well, and that is 4K file sizes. Now, when I heard lots about games being bounced around and file sizes, we have to understand a 4K file size is a huge step over a 1080p file size. A huge step. And to give you an example, so let's have a look at the Forza series, and we can even look at Gears of War 4. So let's have a look at Gears of War Ultimate Edition. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to look at Manage Game, and Gears of War Ultimate Edition, grand total is 44.4 gigabytes. So, the updated version, 1080p, 60 frames a second, rebuilt from the grounds up, original Gears of War, fantastic, 45 gig. About what you'd expect a modern game to be, in all honesty. What have I got to update? Oh, my beta access pass needs to be installed. No. So, we're now going to look at Gears of War 4. A game which originally was around the 50 to 60 gigabyte marks, but this has got the full 4K assets downloaded for it. So let's have a look at this. Now, you can instantly see where next to where it says See Microsoft Store, just to the right hand side of that, 103 gig. Now, we got to understand, Gears of War 4 is a big game, but it's not huge. It's, it's not much bigger than what Gears of War 3 was, and Gears of War the Ultimate Edition remade. It's about the same size. That in that corner is a 70 gig uplift on the original, and that comes from 4K assets. So when you're looking at my 3.1 terabytes and going, oh my god, this guy's used 50%, I've actually got 6.2, maybe 7 terabytes, oh my god, blah blah blah. You have to be aware, you're running 4K, you want 4K, you want the best graphics, you're going to need to download these big file sizes. And if you've got bad internet and you've got one of these big 4K file sizes, it's going to take you days to do it. I'm lucky, I've got fast internet, very fast internet. It meant that it didn't take me long, but I spent nearly 2 days downloading 4K assets. We can now have a look at things like Forza Motorsport 7. Let's have a look at Manage Game. This is a 95 gig file size. The original game was only 37 gig, 37, 30, 40 gig. So this is a 55 gig update. We can have a look, if we go down, and we will have a look at Shadow of War, wherever it may be. I think it's up here somewhere. Can't find the game I'm talking about, but it is in the somewhere. Where is it? There it is. Shadow of War Middle Earth. Let's have a look at this. That is a 46 gig download, right? But has not had the 4K assets downloaded. It's optimized for Xbox One X, but it's not had the 4K assets downloaded for it yet. So, it's important to understand that, getting one of these to have a 4K game is going to need huge amounts of space. So, please be aware that if you're going to get one, the 1 terabyte hard drive will hold 10 games running without 4K. You download the 4K assets into some of them, you could be looking at 8 games. You could be looking at around about, on a 50 gig game, and without too much expansions, you're going to be running about 20 games. With 4K 100 gig, you're going to be running 10. But probably looking at more than 100 gig, you're going to be looking at around about 8 games only. Which is why I cannot recommend enough. Get an external hard drive, get the biggest one you can, plug it in, job done. So we're getting close onto the hour mark, so let's wrap up what I think about the Xbox One X. So, how would I put it? I would say, as a piece of technology, as this thing, as a piece of getting engineers to go mental and just say, right guys, you can imagine Phil Spencer at Microsoft going into a room and saying, look, the PlayStation's wiping our ass everywhere, and we're guys, we need to focus, what can we do? And some engineer going, hello, why don't we just build a super console? And they were like, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? We'll sell bucket loads of them and make loads of money. Go on then, show me what you can do. And put 100 engineers into a room and you give them the 1S and say it's got to be smaller than this or roughly the same size, and use the same power cords, use the same cables, use the same accessories, controllers, blah blah blah, discs, it's got to be able to read the same discs but be better. It was probably a Herculean task to do that, and they've done it. The form factor is the same size or a bit smaller than the S. The fact it can do 4K Blu-ray discs and Ultra HD Blu-ray discs. The fact it can do true 4K gaming, with Shadow of War, with running Forza Motorsport 7, Gears of War 4, Halo 5. There's a true 4K patch coming for Destiny 2. Division's in there. You've got all these games that are going to have 4K downloads that are going to take up 100 gig each, but it doesn't matter because it just goes to show that Microsoft has got the backing of the developers. We've got early access games like PUBG coming out that's going to be Xbox One X enhanced. The fact it can take a bog standard game out of the box. It's a shame I couldn't show you Destiny 2, but you saw with the Division, it takes a bog standard game out of the box and truly makes it better just by uplifting certain assets, by making things run quicker. And we haven't even touched on the fact of if you put an Xbox 360 game in that was absolutely a dog when it was on the 360, that it now runs gloriously. And take into a fact that you put something like Knights of the Old Republic on the original Xbox in it, it is just a dream to work with. It does have to be balanced up with those extra power costs, breathing. You need to make sure it breathes properly and has enough place to vent. In the installation, you've got to take that into account as well, and also the fact that you'll need external hard drives. You'll need that. With the PlayStation, there were updates to run it in the 1440p kind of scaling up to 4K that it does. It doesn't actually download 4K assets, it just upscales, which is fine. It meant that it didn't need a bigger hard drive, or you'd only need a bit of extra more space. But with the Xbox One X, you are running true 4K textures, so it needs to have that space to run. And sometimes the menu glitches out, but that could just be me. I'm running an alpha build of this menu, so it could just be that the build I've got has got a bit of a glitch to it. You running the kind of the standard version at home might just not have those issues whatsoever. So, final verdict. What do I give the Xbox One X? It has to be a 10 out of 10 for Microsoft. They've been behind the whole time in this generation. They've gone from a mighty position with the Xbox 360 right the way down to almost being the joke to some extent of the gaming community. The One S did a lot to rebuild that trust with gamers by giving us a console that was small, it was built for gaming, changing the head of Xbox so that Phil Spencer was in. They've done all the right things, and Microsoft still is making all the right noises by giving us Game Pass, by giving us the games with gold's not gone up in price, or Xbox Live is not gone up in price, by the fact that they've given us a 4K console but let us still use everything that came before. They've not just done the rip and replace, which sometimes big companies like this can do. Backwards compatibility on 360 and original Xbox, all those little things are all the right things that Sony really isn't doing at the moment. But it comes down to one thing: games. Standard games like Dishonored 2, Watch Dogs 2, cross-compatible games, or multi-platform releases. The Xbox One X is the one to get it on. It just works better. Titanfall 2 is another great example of a game that runs better on Xbox One X, looks better on Xbox One X, and so it should for the extra amount of money. I'm not saying the PlayStation 4 Pro is a bad console. What I'm saying is if you're going to play the two games on two different systems, the One X is the one to get it on. It will genuinely look better. If we can get past those negatives, if Microsoft... And the beautiful thing is, what I believe that the negatives that I'm talking about, the downside to this, is software related. It is not down to the hardware. The right throughput speed, running an external hard drive, it still runs quicker. The silence that the machine does is barely noticeable. No more louder than an old-fashioned PC. In fact, it's less than that. It's like having a Blu-ray player just sat on tick off, or your Sky box at home. Your satellite box. So it's all software based, and I think that Microsoft can fix that very, very easily. So like I said, my verdict, 10 out of 10. It's the way forward. It just needs Microsoft now to sign up some exclusives. I think PUBG is going to be one of those exclusively to Xbox. I know everyone's talking about rumours about it going multi-platform. I don't think it will. I think Microsoft's going to see it go off the scale, and they're just going to throw a load of money at it and job done. It will be an Xbox exclusive or Windows exclusive as well. And we need a few more games like that. But I think that now that the tool set is in place, those developers will come. We're never going to see The Last of Us or Horizon Zero Dawn or some of those PlayStation exclusives coming. I don't think we need that. But Microsoft, as they do, being Microsoft, they'll have a 5-year plan, and somewhere in that will be new developers or new IPs or existing developers or purchasing people to give them the AAA back. And I think it's going to be a very important E3 next year, because now there's no hardware to talk about. There's no back foot now. There's all feet forward. All the arrows are pointing in the same direction. For me, the big killer thing is going to be if Halo 6 is presented and it is done well, then that could be a killer first person to get. And there's got to be something else. There's got to be something else in there that's going to attract the gamers. Well, I'm going to wrap up. I've been talking. We've been going for like nearly an hour now. I know it's been quite intense. I know there's been a lot to cover. But really, This is the first one of my what do I think about. I wanted to cover this off because this is a big release. This is a big thing that we need to cover off. And I think we've done it. I think hopefully I've given you an insight into the day-to-day life with an Xbox One X. You know, some of the improvements and the stuff that Microsoft's done right. My verdict: get one. Get one. On the caveat that you play enough time on video games to appreciate it. If you're looking for, if you know, the Xbox One X is not the to rip and replace an Xbox One S that you play 6 hours a week on. If, like me, you play lots and you want to have the very best, get an X. You'll not look back. If the next step up from an X is a gaming PC, you'll still be in Microsoft's world. You'll have Steam, etc., etc. But you're going to need to spend about £1,000 to get a minimum rig that will probably be out of date in 12 months. This, you've got guaranteed 3 to 4 years before it's replaced now. So that's my final verdict. That's what I think about the Xbox One X. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to know a little bit more about what I do, go to damnprofit.com. That's my website. It's got all my stream times on there. You can also look, obviously you're on my YouTube channel. I also stream on Twitch, so it's twitch.tv/damned_profit. I'm on Mixer as well, so it's mixer.com/damned_profit. Obviously, I'll go YouTube Gaming, just same again. It's damned_profit gamer. You can also check out Twitter, damnprofit, your Facebook, damnprofit. All you gotta do is just look me up, drop a like, drop a follow, drop a subscription. Go and check out my website. Go and see some of the streaming videos I do on there. And hopefully I will see you all very soon for my next What Do I Think About. And this is a long one, but next time we'll keep it down to under 30 minutes. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll speak again soon.